Well, welcome to this presentation. If you're watching this video, obviously you've probably talked to me or to Kathy Murphy or someone that I personally know about an idea that I've had about possibly starting a new venture. I need to get some feedback from some published authors, and so I'm glad you're here to watch this. My name is Paul Robertson. I am the webmaster for Kathy Murphy, who is the, as you know or should know, is the owner and founder of the Beauty in the Book Club, also known as the Putwood Queens, the largest meet and greet book club in the world. And I've been pretty close friends with Kathy for a number of years now, and I've been blessed to be able to meet and talk to many authors, published authors, successful authors, and really get more information about the industry, the struggles that are happening for new authors, indie authors, the divide in how people believe indie publishing should be or work, or however you want to phrase it. And as a business student from in college, where I got my degree in management, I am always thinking about solving problems. That's what entrepreneurs do. And you know, I've been thinking about some of the problems in this industry, and you know, just trying to come up with some new and creative book marketing ideas for authors. And I think I've come up with a pretty good idea. I just need some more feedback from you guys, or from you that are, you know, watching this video. And I just want to know what you think. I'm always trying to learn and know what's possible and what's not. So let me just kind of use this video to explain everything. And if you would like to know more about the bigger idea, more detail, there should be a video below this that explains it. I actually made that video first, but I felt like I didn't explain why I'm doing the video in the first place very well. And so instead of just redoing it, I just made this video here that hopefully you can see like the bare bones of the idea without the theme that we're going to talk about so much, which is the multiverse theme, which, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to explain that in this video and in the next one. So basically, like I said, I've been looking for new and effective ways to promote authors, it's a very crowded marketplace with books being written every day, published every day. So authors are competing for a reader's attention. Good thing there's a lot of readers. There's a big market of readers, but you know, competition is fierce. As a business student, I'm always trying to think, how can you make a continuity-based business model out of selling books? Obviously, as an author or published author, it usually takes 6 months to a year to write a really good novel, and that kind of, it's good in one sense that if you are getting advances from a publisher, that you can build a nice living from it. However, how could, like, you know, I'm always thinking like James Patterson. He basically systemized his book selling process, which is got both complaints and people who love the idea and want to try to do it as well. But I was thinking, is there a better way or a different way of doing it? But yeah, I mean, always trying to find out how can we make the process better for authors and for publishers, both online and traditionally. And basically, like I said, it's a crowded marketplace. So how do you stand out if you're a new author, or if you're even a seasoned author? How do you not, you know, get forgotten in a very crowded marketplace where a lot of authors are out there coming, and a lot of talented authors are actually getting books out? How do you stand out? How do you build your story or do something new? And the whole reason about that you really should be thinking about continuity-based business model, if you can do it, is that it's about growing momentum, instead of, you know, you write a book and then you try to promote it. You write another book and then you try to promote it. Obviously, series are how authors just write more books in a series, trilogies, or whatever, and that helps with the process, and then people get to know you as an author. However, there's some issues like once, like as a reader myself, when I fall in love with a world or a story, and I'm the type of reader where I don't want to really leave that world. The more you can give me, the better. Just because if I fall in love with your story and then it's over, or I gotta wait another year for your next book, the momentum kind of dies. Like, it's hard for me to want to wait that long. We live in a world where we binge read, we binge watch Netflix, we binge watch on YouTube. I mean, we're all become very impatient, and it's just kind of what's happened. And if you could find a way to feed a reader a lot of story all throughout the year before you launch your book, keep them engaged in your world, they're going to be ready to buy as soon as you go, because you're already on their mind. And that's kind of the gist of this idea. And then, just create something new and exciting for readers to refer to other readers. In other words, get that viral effect, get that word of mouth going, which is a hard thing to do in a crowded marketplace like this industry is. How do you get that when you're doing the same thing everyone else is doing? If you're doing the same book marketing ideas that everyone else is doing, then you're essentially not doing any marketing, because it gets like, people that love you as an author, they're going to buy your books. But how do you build on that? Get your books out to people who normally don't even know who you are. How do you get them to love you and all that sort of stuff? So that's kind of the idea, the reason behind me thinking about the things. And so, before I go to the next slide, the genesis of this idea is based on what is already in effect. When you create a book or a story, you are in a sense creating a world, a universe, however you want to phrase it, depending on what genre you're in, like fiction, science fiction, fantasy, contemporary, whatever. Whenever you create a story, you're creating a world where those characters exist. And every author's doing that. So there essentially are thousands and thousands, millions of worlds that are separated out there in literature. But there is a concept called the multiverse, which is multiple universes that exist. And in the video below this video, I go into that to kind of explain that if you don't know what that is. But essentially, it's just the idea that there's more than one universe. They're talking about, like, in real life, they think there's a theory out there that there's more than just this world and this universe. There's parallel universes or whatever. We don't know if that's true or not. Most likely, but I'm not gonna say that. We don't know if it's true or not. There's no way to prove it really right now or anything. But in the world of literature, it applies. That's why you see Marvel, companies like Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, Star Trek, all those type of companies. They have these things called multiverses, that's the framework in which they tell their stories, and they can do it in a way that is believable and accepted. And so they have an essential private multiverse that they work their stories in, and that's what I'm talking about in this idea, is taking that general concept but applying it to authors, like getting authors to basically join and build what I would call an author network. And so let me explain this chart to you, and I created this just to illustrate the idea and to do it quickly. All right, so I'm a reader, and there's millions of readers out there. We shop on Amazon and other book retailers, but more specifically, let's just use Amazon. We're looking for books. All right, so one way or another, we come across your book. You're a published author. You've probably done some promotion with your publishers or whatever. However we find your book, we find your book. We read your book, we love your book, and we want more, right? And it's going to be another year before you write another book or publish another book or whatever. So generally, I have to put your book down and then wait, or forget about it, because I find other great books, and then you're just another great book in a long list of books I've read, which typically happens for a lot of readers. Very few are going to be so in love with your book that they're just completely engrossed with it and waiting another year, and they're talking about it and they're just waiting with anticipation. That rarely happens, but it does happen. And you're going to build a list of those readers and eventually build up a pretty big support group. But there's a lot of readers that just go away. And so let's just say, I'm gonna represent those readers. I'm on Amazon. I find your book. I read it. I love it. If there was this, I'm talking about, what if we created a network? Let's say I started this network. I started this business. I recruit authors, published authors, even indie authors, I guess later on or whatever. And this is what the deal would be. You would join the network. You would place an advertisement at the end of your book, just a one-page advertisement of the network, where the reader finds your book, loves your story, sees that ad, and goes to the network. Now, the idea is that the network is essentially the bare bones of a multiverse. It would be a software platform that would have to be built, where your universe is one of many universes that exist on the network. So think of Facebook and Facebook pages. You have Facebook, which is would essentially be the multiverse, and then you have a reader who has a home page, which is kind of like everything that they've subscribed and followed or whatever. But then they can go to your universe, which is your fan page, and they can get information about your world, how it's made up, the backstories, and your books and where to buy them and the whole deal. And that's your world. That you're writing your books and they exist in that world. And then that's kind of like, think of it like that. So I find your book on Amazon, I read it, I see that, and I see an ad for your world on the network. And I click that link if it's a Kindle book or whatever, and I go to your page. I get more information about your world, and I like it. I follow it. I join the network as a reader, and I subscribe to your world because I want more of what you're doing. Now, if you say you had 12 authors that's doing this, you're going to have a lot of traffic that's coming from Amazon to the network, and if they really love it, they're going to join the network. And so let's say over a course of a year or two, with 12 authors doing this, obviously we could have more, but I'm just using 12 as an example. What if you had 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever, I don't know what the number would be, of readers that have joined this network because they found those authors' books. Now, when a reader comes to the network and they join, now they can also search the network and find other worlds, or authors, on that network. Now, what this does is this creates like kind of like like a net to catch all the readers and from all your books into one place. And then we're going to talk about here just a second. Now, what that does is allow us to do a lot of things for everyone, which is what these are. These are novelettes, short stories, and novellas. Basically, just like in a shared world where you have different authors writing in a collaborative writing fashion. Typically, every author has his own story, but there's usually one overarching story, right? That connects all the stories together. This is the same type of concept. So instead of this being a shared world, this will be a shared multiverse. A shared multiverse for authors, so that you're getting the benefits of a shared world without having to do collaborative writing with each other, because you have your universe, another author has their universe that they write their stories in. But there is one overarching story about the network, which is the multiverse, that connects all the stories together without actually you having to work with other authors. So essentially, you're just doing the same thing you're doing now. You're just getting your own page on the network, sending readers to the network to join it, and then we would create a series of books to give to the members that are joining the network. So let me click to the next screen here. And so now you have this network. You say you have 10,000 readers that's joined because you've sent them to this network and they've joined. What essentially the ideal is, we want to build a book club, and we want to build a book club that's based solely on our stories, not most of your book clubs are going to pick authors from here, from there, wherever, just whatever books they find and they like, they'll talk about it. But what if you could build a book club strictly around your stories, and how powerful that would be? Because essentially what you're doing is creating a continuity program, because every month they're buying your books, this will be the author's network, the network's books, and creating a continuity that's happening here. So my idea was this. So short stories, novelettes, which are 10 to 15,000 words, something like that, and novellas, which are what, 20 to 50,000 words or something like that. These are easier, quicker to easier to write. And so if you could feed a reader one of those type of stories every month, week, or whatever, just depending on how many stories you had, and you could do a book club about the same stories, you're going to keep a reader involved in the storyline of the network, and in the process, you're able to now send all that traffic that you've collectively been building together to promote each author's worlds and books. And so my idea would be this. If, say, you're an author on this network, you could create a novella, a novelette, or short story that showcases a story or something that's happening in your world, and you could put it into this system, like the series, to showcase your world and send that traffic that's being built by everyone to your world in a funnel. Basically is what's happening here. So in effect, what you have is a lot of traffic going to the network, joining, and then we're systematically sending them a new story every month. And everyone that joins ideally would see an email or whatever at a certain time, and they'll come back to the network, they'll get the story, and then they'll get to read it and go to and read that book. And then you would have a showcase book here, and then it would be another part of the series here. Then someone else's showcase book would be here, and it would, every time you wrote a book, at the end of it, there would be a link that goes to your world, where they would go to your world. They would get the backstories, the characters, just like you would on a blog or whatever, and and get to explore your world on the network. And then there's links and pictures of your books where they can go click on Amazon and buy your books. And so systematically, we're promoting your books collectively because we have this series going on that we're building also a book club around as well. And then finally, when you have this and you build a network like this, whenever you do write your main novel, we could do book launches for all the authors on the network. So like if you wrote your main novel and you're going to release it in October, we could have a book launch whatever for that book with our network because you were a member of it. That's kind of like the general ideal of it. It does provide some benefits. Now, the benefits, the whole ideal is behind the whole concept of a shared world, shared universe. You have, when you have a shared world, there are benefits such as readers getting more stories in a world that they love, that so they don't ever have to leave that world. They can get more of it. However, collaborative writing, having all the authors work together well, that can be problematic. Then there's story conflicts. Sometimes people don't keep up with the continuity, the canon, or whatever. So there's some issues, and that's why a lot of writers don't want to work in a shared world or anything like that. They just want to work solo. Well, that main benefit of a network would be that you could just do what you normally do. You would be a part of something bigger, a bigger storyline, without actually having to worry about other people's books or what they're doing with their characters. You wouldn't have to do that. But what this would do as a network, it would keep readers engaged in your world through an overarching storyline. So that is the continuity. That is what is keeping the reader in, basically keeping you on their radar, keeping them on your radar, whatever. You get what I'm saying? You're keeping your story on their radar all year long, even though you yourself may not be writing a book every day or every week or every month. Because other writers are doing it, because there's a story that like we would be writing and delivering to the readers that belong to the network. All right. It allows us to build and promote a book club around just our stories. That's one of the main things, because it's hard to promote a book. It's a lot easier to promote an author, but people don't think about the fact that you can also promote a book club. And that's because the book club is the community that readers belong to. It is why people like authors are always going to book clubs trying to promote their books, because it's the book club that is the readers, that is your market, that is the people who are book lovers. So if you could build a community that's ever growing around just your stories, you're going to be building the momentum to sell more and more books every single month or year or whatever. And like I said, that you create a funnel to send readers through that promotes all the authors' worlds via showcase stories, short stories, novelettes, novellas. Basically, you're going to, like, all the authors are collectively building a lot of readers and getting them in one place, and then send them in a funnel where you can put your books in front of all those readers and showcase your world, so people find your world and find your books and buy them. And then, like I said, it gives us a platform to promote new releases for your novels that you're writing with for your publishers and yourself or whatever. And then just build a community of highly invested readers through various activities. And one of the examples I use is that I'm a Dragonlance lover. That is a fantasy brand, if you don't know who that is, but it's fantasy. And Dragonlance, basically, I don't think they're not very active now. I don't think they're even writing any more books now. But in the 80s and 90s, they had over 190 books in that world. And I think they sold over, I don't know, $20 million. I mean, it was some astronomically high sales, because basically when they put out a book, you would buy the book if you were a Dragonlance lover. And it didn't matter who wrote it in that world. As long as it was a Dragonlance book that was written, you bought it. And I would still be buying it now if they were still writing it, but that is a benefit of a shared world, is that if you love that world, you're going to buy all the books in it. And maybe we could create the same effect with a network. Now, there are things to consider. If you're going to build a network, it can be built on a small basis, a medium-sized basis, or a large basis. And all three are in play here. Basically, on a small basis, let's use Kathy's Pulpwood Queens or Beauty in the Book as a example. The theme would be, the network would be a multiverse of stories, which would be all the author stories. She has a lot of Pulpwood Queens authors already. She already has a book club. So the theme of the overarching storyline would be about the Pulpwood Queens in some fashion. It would be fiction, but the overarching storyline, the funnel of books that would be fed to the readers every month, would be Pulpwood Queen stories. And in that funnel would be authors contributing short stories, novelettes, and novellas to showcase their world on the network. And when Pulpwood Queen book club members get that book and they read it and they love it, then they're going to your world, exploring all the books you've written, and then buying your books. All right, so that would be a book club theme type multiverse. A little larger type multiverse would be something like a category. So let's use romance as a category, because fiction and science fiction are the obvious ones that's easy to do with this idea. So I'm going to purposely use romance as an idea. So let's say we want to build a multiverse for our network theme, and it was based on romance, because that's a big category, romance. And so what you could do is you could go romance in Chicago. All right, so it could be a Chicago romance theme network. So let's say we found a lot of romance writers and they wanted to be a part of the network. So they started writing books around well, first of all, they wouldn't even have to, they could write the same romance novels as they normally do, but when it comes to the overarching storyline would be romantic stories from the city of Chicago, which would be a shared city. It's a little bit smaller concept than a shared world or shared universe. It's a shared city. So all the authors are going to be writing, like the network will be writing stories for Chicago romance stories. And every month they would be getting a free short story, novelette, or novella about Chicago romance. And inserted in between those books that they got from the network, they would get showcase short stories, novelettes, or novellas from the authors themselves that's showcasing a Chicago romance story that they wrote. And if they really like the book, there would be links to their world where they can get more romance, whether it be Chicago or not Chicago or whatever. That's just more of a category type thing. So this can be contemporary, it can be romance, it can be other categories. It doesn't have to be just science fiction and fantasy. I'm just trying to give an example that it actually works in any category, really, that's fiction. And then you have an industry-wide multiverse theme, which is what the video below this is talking about, is building a platform for just all writers, period. And the multiverse itself is the theme, the story, the storyline that you're writing about, which is more science fiction because you're dealing with, space and time and all that type of stuff. But you still could fit in all the categories in a platform like that, because just because you write romance doesn't mean does romance not happen in science fiction. It does. It happens in fantasy. It happens in all categories. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about themes. And so basically, there's just some questions I need answered. Would a published author even be interested in joining a network like this that I'm proposing? I don't know of any network that exists like this. I know there's shared worlds, shared universes, writing teams, collaborative writers. This isn't a new concept of shared writing or collaborative writing. But is there a network? Is there a platform out there that's doing what I'm talking about here? And would a published author? I'm pretty sure indie authors would be interested. That's not really a question I have. I'm pretty sure they already would be interested. It's published authors that I'm really questioning because they've already got a platform. They've already are successful, have publishers, and have momentum. So I don't know if that would be something a published author would be interested in. And it's not a deal killer or deal breaker. It's just something I would like to know. Would a published author have to get permission to join a network like this from their publisher? Because obviously there's rights and I get it. This isn't something you can just do if you want to do it or not. You may have to get permission. I need to know that. And if that is the case, then, that changes a lot of things. Can or would a published author place a page at the end of their books promoting their world on the network? Because here's the deal. This network I'm talking about would be free for the author to join, other than, several things they got to do. One would be promoting the network. That's part of the value we bring to the network, is that you're sending your readers to our network, to our platform. That helps us not have to try to go out and do a whole lot of advertising, which costs a lot of money to do, because we're going to be putting all that money into building the platform. Second thing, it costs a lot of money to basically host something like that. And so we have to be very conscious about what we're doing. So would an author be willing to do that? And would they be allowed to do that by the publisher that they're with? And then lastly, would a published author have time or be willing to write and contribute a showcase short story, novelette, novella, whatever, depending on the length you want to write, to the network, and for free to the members of that network? So like, if you're published authors, you're writing your normal books that you write every year, and would you take the time to write a novelette, a 10,000 word story that showcases your world, and let us give it to the readers for free, so that we can continuously feed them story all the time in the background while you're working on your novel? Obviously you could still put it up for sale in Amazon or whatever, but we would like to have the rights to be able to publish that for free on the network, because otherwise that's kind of defeating the purpose. You want the readers to be getting stories all the time and for free, so that that's promoting the paid stuff where they got to go somewhere and buy your books. Those are the 4 things that I kind of need to know and get answered. And so basically, guys, that's really the idea. Is basically, you want to get this funnel started because it creates a lot of opportunity to do a lot of things. Once you have a lot of readers and they're going through this process of reading this book and then this book, then this book, then this book, then this book, then you can promote your authors. You can do a book club and do a continuous book club. You're continuously keeping them engaged in the network and the authors of the network, and you're building a platform to promote the new releases of their novels. But that's the idea. It's a little like it's not meant to be complicated. Think of it like this: on the front end, readers are finding your books and finding a network, they're joining, and on the back end, they're getting they're being given stories to read and keep them engaged all year long, and that provides us ways to promote you and your worlds and your books, and in two different ways. One, through showcase pieces, and two, by when you do a book launch for your novels that are new releases. And that's it. I mean, that's kind of like the bare bones of the idea. I would love some feedback. And like I said, the whole multiverse theme, the idea of it, is what I really got into in the first presentation that I did that's below this video. And I think this will help make more sense, because I didn't really go into the bare bones of what the idea is, but the theme of a multiverse is literally not something that you can get away from, simply because that is what it is. You know, you already have a multiverse. It's just disorganized out there in the literary world. It's disorganized. It's not organized like Marvel is or whatever, like comic books and that sort of thing. You know, it's disorganized. So what I would like to do is to organize what already exists, this disorganized multiverse, into one network, or multiple networks and categories or whatever, and then create this resource to do these things. So I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you for watching, and like I said, if you want more detailed information, watch the video below this. And I think I go really deeper into the whole theme and the idea, and actually the multiverse story, and all that sort of stuff. And so thank you, and good night.